People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. Epictetus wrote those words nearly 2,000 years ago. And yet, think of the last time someone cut you down with a remark, rolled their eyes at your effort, or dismissed your worth with silence. The wound was real, wasn't it? Not on the skin, but in the spirit. Disrespect has a way of echoing louder than praise, making us want to react, to prove ourselves, to fight for ground that should never have been questioned in the first place. But here is the truth the Stoics knew. The insult itself holds no power. The storm begins when we surrender our calm, when we let another's behavior command our inner state. You cannot stop the world from throwing shadows, but you can choose not to live in their darkness. In this video, we'll explore 10 timeless lessons from Stoicism, tools to help you face disrespect without losing yourself. Walk with me to the end, and you may find strength where before there was only pain. As we step into the first chapter, picture a moment when someone looks you in the eye, dismisses your effort, and with a single careless remark makes you feel invisible. That sudden sting, that quiet rage rising in your chest, it feels like a fire has been lit inside you. And yet, that fire is not from their words. It is from the meaning you give them. Now imagine this. A stranger throws mud at you while you're walking down a quiet road. You could pick it up, smear it on your face, and carry it for miles. Or you could wipe it off and keep walking, untouched. Disrespect is that mud. It stains only if you let it cling. Epictetus warned us, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The insult passes quickly. The real scar is carved only when you let it stay. I have seen this in my own life. Years ago, I worked under a manager who thrived on belittling others. His words were sharp, designed to cut, to remind me of my place. At first, I carried those wounds home every night. I replayed them in my head, each word like a hammer striking my confidence. But slowly, I began to understand. His words said more about him than they did about me. His frustration, his bitterness, his insecurities spilled out in the form of disrespect. And once I saw it for what it was, the weight began to fall from my shoulders. This is the first lesson of Stoicism, to keep your calm. Calm is not passivity. Calm is control. It is the discipline to pause when your instincts scream to lash out. It is the power to choose your response instead of handing the reins to another's behavior. When you remain steady, you do not shrink. You rise above. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. This is not weakness. This is mastery. To see disrespect as nothing more than the noise of another soul in turmoil. To refuse to let it touch the center of your being. Think about it. When someone disrespects you, what are they really revealing? Their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own judgments, none of which are a reflection of your worth. You are not the echo of their bitterness. You are the measure of your own mind. So the next time someone dismisses you, do not let your peace be stolen. Step back. See their behavior for what it is, a mirror of themselves, not of you. Keep your calm, and you turn their attempt to wound you into an empty gesture. And as we move forward, remember this: calm is only the beginning. For beyond calm lies the deeper practice of turning the gaze inward. And that is where the second lesson begins. Moving into the second chapter, imagine standing in front of a mirror that does not show your face but your thoughts. Every judgment, every impulse, every hidden motive reflected back to you. It is uncomfortable, sometimes even unbearable. And yet this is where strength begins, not in silencing others, but in facing yourself. Now ask yourself, when someone disrespects me, is there any truth in their words? Did I, knowingly or not, fan the flames of this moment? Or is their outburst nothing more than a mirror of their own turmoil? These are not easy questions. They cut. But the Stoics believed that only through this kind of ruthless self-examination could we ever hope to live with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the applause of the crowd, not the sharpness of another's insult, your thoughts." I remember a time when someone I trusted mocked me in front of others. My pride wanted to fight back. But when I sat alone that night, I asked, why did it pierce so deeply? Was it because their words were true, or because I feared they might be? That moment of reflection hurt more than the insult itself. Yet it also freed me, because once I admitted where my own insecurity lay, their voice lost its power. This is the heart of Stoicism. You cannot master your response if you refuse to examine the soil from which it grows. Reflection turns reaction into reason. It transforms chaos into clarity. It is the difference between being dragged by your emotions and guiding them like a rider steering a wild horse. Seneca reminded us that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Reflection exposes this truth. It asks, am I hurt because of what was said, or because of the story I have built around it? Often, we discover that the wound was not carved by their words, but by our own interpretation. And if our interpretation created the pain, then our mind has the power to unmake it. Think of it like a sculptor with marble. Each thought is a chisel strike shaping the figure of your life. If your thoughts are careless, the sculpture fractures. If your thoughts are precise, steady, guided by reason, the form becomes whole, beautiful, enduring. Reflection is the sculptor's hand. Without it, you are just stone, battered by every blow. So when disrespect arrives, and it always will, turn inward. Ask, what is mine to own here? What is theirs to carry? And how can I respond without betraying my own values? That quiet pause, that honest look in the mirror, is what transforms insult into instruction. Hold this truth close. Self-reflection is not weakness. It is courage. The courage to confront the only battlefield you can truly control, your own mind. And once you win there, the world outside loses its grip. From here, the path leads us to another Stoic weapon. Not reflection this time, but restraint. The wisdom to pause before fire spreads. That is where we go next. Advancing to the third chapter, think of the moment when anger floods your chest like a sudden storm breaking against the shore. The heart pounds, the breath quickens, and the words you want to spit out feel sharp enough to cut. In that instant, it feels impossible to stop. But this is precisely the battlefield where Stoicism asks us to stand firm. Seneca once warned, whenever you are angry, be assured that it is not only a present evil, but that you have increased a habit. Each time you surrender to fury, you are training yourself to fall again. Now imagine being insulted in a crowded room, a joke at your expense, a sneer meant to humiliate. The eyes of others are on you, waiting to see your response. Your body wants to strike back. But what if you didn't? What if you gave yourself a single pause, a breath long enough to step outside the fire? That pause is power. It is the gap between impulse and wisdom. It is where you stop being a puppet pulled by another's strings and become the master of yourself. The Stoics understood this truth. Emotions are not enemies, but wild horses. Left untamed, they throw you off course. Guided with patience, they carry you exactly where you want to go. To pause is to take the reins. It is not silence out of weakness, it is silence sharpened into choice. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by what happens, but by how we see it. The pause gives you the chance to see clearly before acting blindly. I recall a colleague who once mocked my work during a meeting. The old me would have lashed out, feeding his spectacle. But that day, I took a breath. I let the silence hang heavy. And when I finally spoke, my voice was steady, my words measured. The room shifted. He had expected fire and found a wall of calm instead. That moment taught me more than any book. Restraint commands more respect than rage ever could. When you pause, you don't lose ground, you gain it. You refuse to let disrespect dictate your behavior. You show that your dignity is not up for negotiation. This pause is not retreat, it is strategy. It turns conflict into reflection, insult into emptiness, chaos into stillness. And in that stillness, others see your strength more clearly than if you had shouted. Remember, every time you indulge anger, you strengthen its grip. Every time you pause, you strengthen yourself. The habit you build today becomes the fortress you rely on tomorrow. A single breath can change the entire outcome, so the next time someone tries to provoke you, let the fire burn out in their hands. Hold your silence like a blade, because the pause is not emptiness, it is mastery. From here, another door opens, for beyond calm and reflection lies the deeper challenge, to see the world through the eyes of others. That is where empathy enters the path. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine looking into the eyes of someone who has just dismissed you with a sneer or spoken words meant to cut you down. Your first instinct is to harden, to push back, to mirror their contempt. But here is where Stoicism offers a surprising path. Instead of armoring up, it asks you to lean in with empathy, to see not just their words, but the storm behind their eyes. Now consider this. What if their disrespect has less to do with you and more to do with the battles they carry? Epictetus said, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." That wisdom doesn't just apply to us, it applies to them too. A person who lashes out may not be revealing your weakness, but their own. Insecurities, fears, ignorance. These are the true seeds from which disrespect often grows. I remember standing in line at a store one afternoon. The cashier was slow, clearly overwhelmed, and the man ahead of me snapped at her, ridiculing her in front of everyone. For a moment I felt the heat rise in my chest, anger at his cruelty, but then I noticed his trembling hands, the frustration written across his face. He wasn't just lashing out at her, he was drowning in his own chaos. That didn't excuse his behavior, but it changed the way I saw it. Instead of meeting him with anger, I met him with calm. And in doing so, I walked away lighter, not carrying the poison of his bitterness inside me. Empathy does not mean excusing disrespect. It means refusing to add fuel to the fire. It allows you to step outside the immediate wound and ask, what must it feel like to live inside that person's skin? Imagine living so poisoned by fear that the only way to breathe is to choke others. When you see that, you stop taking it personally. You stop letting their storm drown your peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This practice turns judgment inward and softens the heart. It allows us to recognize that all humans stumble. that disrespect is often just another stumble, loud, clumsy, and ugly, but still human. Responding with empathy doesn't make you weak, it makes you untouchable, because while others lose themselves in conflict, you remain rooted. You don't escalate the noise, you don't surrender your dignity. Instead, you transform the encounter into an opportunity for growth, yours, not theirs. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause, see beyond the mask. Recognize the fear, the ignorance, the insecurity that drives them. Let empathy be your shield, not for their sake, but for yours. Because when you understand without absorbing, you rise above without fighting. And from this place of understanding, the Stoic path leads us further still, toward a higher ground where virtue, not reaction, becomes the measure of our strength. That is where the next lesson begins. From here, let us turn to the core of Stoicism, the pursuit of virtue. Picture yourself in a heated moment, someone throwing disrespect at you like stones. The instinct is to retaliate, to prove your strength in noise or fury. But true Stoic strength does not lie in shouting louder. It lies in holding fast to what cannot be shaken, your virtue. Seneca wrote, "Virtue is nothing else than right reason. To be virtuous is to live in alignment with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. These qualities do not bend with circumstance. They remain steady, like a compass that points north no matter how the winds blow." The Stoics taught that virtue is the highest good, and everything else, status, wealth, insults, even praise, is indifferent. That is why when disrespect comes, the measure of your response is not how much you hurt the other, but how well you stayed true to yourself. I once watched a man be ridiculed during a public gathering. The insult was sharp, designed to humiliate. Everyone expected him to explode, to fight back, but he didn't. He stood tall, his face calm, and simply said, "I choose not to answer disrespect with disrespect." The silence that followed was heavier than any outburst could have been. The one who mocked him looked smaller while he grew larger in the eyes of all who watched. That is what virtue does. It turns the tide without a raised hand. Virtue is not weakness, it is power disciplined. To focus on virtue when disrespected is to say, "I will not betray my values for the sake of a moment. I will not allow someone else's chaos to corrupt my integrity." Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Imagine if every response you gave to disrespect had to pass through that filter. How much stronger would your presence be? Concentrating on virtue means making your dignity non-negotiable. It does not mean tolerating abuse or pretending nothing happened. It means setting boundaries with courage, speaking truth with justice, and holding your peace with self-control. You respond not because your emotions command you, but because your reason has chosen the right path. Think of it like this: waves rise and fall. Virtue does not. It is the rock that stays. If you live by emotions alone, you are swept away by every tide of disrespect. But if you live by virtue, you become the rock, solid, unshakable, undeniable. So the next time you are tested, remember this: virtue is not theory, it is action. Every response is a chance to practice it. Choose wisdom over rage, courage over fear, justice over pettiness, and self-control over impulse. That is how you grow unbreakable. If these words resonate, write one word in the comments: virtue. Let it be your anchor. And subscribe if you want more reminders to live as the Stoics did, calm, strong, and true. From here, we step into another challenge, learning to accept what we cannot control and to find peace even in what wounds us. That is where the path now leads. At this stage, picture yourself standing in the middle of a crowded street. Voices rise around you, some praising, some mocking, some dismissing you as if you were nothing. You feel the pull to fight every word, to defend your name against every passing stranger. But pause. What if you simply let the noise pass, like wind against stone, and kept walking? That choice, the choice to accept what is beyond your control, is where Stoic power begins. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." To the Stoics, acceptance was not resignation, it was clarity. The understanding that life is divided into two realms, what belongs to you and what never will. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, these are yours. Another's judgment, another's disrespect, the shifting tides of fortune, these are not. If you confuse the two, you hand over your peace like a coin spent carelessly. I once watched a friend lose himself to anger because of a single insult. He replayed it for weeks, grinding it like a stone against his spirit, until it shaped his mood, his work, even his sleep. The insult itself had lasted 10 seconds. The wound he carried, he carved himself. That is the danger of refusing acceptance. You extend the life of every shadow, letting it linger long after it has passed. Acceptance is not weakness, it is discipline. To say, "This is outside my control, therefore it cannot rule me." Imagine being caught in a storm. You cannot stop the rain, you cannot silence the thunder, but you can choose whether to dance in it, to endure it, or to curse it until you are hoarse. One path drains you, the other preserves you. The storm does not change, you do. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That is the Stoic dichotomy of control. When someone disrespects you, their behavior is theirs to own. Yours is to decide whether their voice will become your master or your teacher. Will you rage against what cannot be changed, or will you use it as a mirror to sharpen your own patience, resilience, and clarity? Acceptance does not mean you approve of disrespect. It means you refuse to carry its poison in your veins. It means you learn the lesson without drinking the bitterness. You acknowledge reality without letting it chain you. In this way, every insult becomes a chance to grow steadier, every loss a step closer to wisdom. So when disrespect comes, and it will, let it be what it is. Do not fight shadows. Do not chase storms. Anchor yourself in what is yours to command. Your thoughts, your choices, your voice. That is where freedom lives. And from this freedom, another tool awaits, a lighter weapon, sharper than anger itself. The Stoics knew its power well. It is the unexpected strength of humor. Here's where the Stoic path takes an unexpected turn toward laughter. Picture someone throwing an insult like a stone, expecting it to strike hard, to wound deep. But instead of shattering you, it bounces off because you met it not with rage, not with silence, but with a smile that says, "You cannot reach me." That is the quiet strength of humor. Seneca once wrote, "You have mastered yourself when you know how to deal with what you should not take seriously." The Stoics valued discipline, restraint, rationality, but they also understood that sometimes the most powerful answer is not heavy with anger, but light with wit. Disrespect loses its sting when you refuse to treat it with the seriousness it craves. I recall a time when a colleague tried to belittle me during a group meeting. His words were sharp, designed to make others laugh at my expense. In the past, I might have bristled, defended myself, let the tension rise. But that day, I chose differently. I smiled and said, "Well, at least you're paying attention." The room chuckled, not at me, but at the shift. The power slipped from his hands. By choosing humor, I showed that his attempt to hurt me had no weight. And just like that, the insult dissolved into nothing. Humor, when used wisely, is not about mocking others in return. It is about refusing to hand over your peace. It is about turning the edge of their weapon into something harmless, almost absurd. A playful remark, a gentle joke, a light comment. These can redirect the current of conflict. They say, "I see what you tried to do, but I will not be dragged down." But caution matters here. Humor is a tool, not a shield to hide behind. Used cruelly, it becomes another form of disrespect. Used excessively, it loses its sharpness. The Stoic way is balance, to laugh without malice, to disarm without wounding, to hold dignity while showing that not every arrow deserves a heavy response. Think of it this way: anger feeds the fire. Silence can sometimes feel like surrender, but humor steals the fuel. It leaves the other person confused, powerless, forced to sit with their own bitterness while you walk away lighter. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to live in harmony with reason and nature. And humor in its best form is nature's release. It allows the tension to break, the heart to breathe, the mind to remember that not every battle deserves a soldier. Sometimes the wisest warrior fights with a smile. So, when disrespect comes your way, ask yourself, can I meet this with laughter instead of fury? Can I let the sting turn into a joke that reminds me how small this moment really is? That choice does not weaken you. It frees you. Carry this truth. A calm joke at the right moment can be sharper than anger and softer than silence. And from this lighter ground, we step into something firmer still, the art of setting clear boundaries. This is where strength stops being a quiet shield and becomes a visible stance, boundaries. Imagine a rock on the shoreline. The waves crash, the tide pulls, storms rage, yet the rock does not crumble. It does not move with every push or retreat at every strike. It stands. Not because it resents the sea, but because it knows its shape, its weight, its place. That is what it means to live with boundaries. Stoicism is not an invitation to become a doormat. It is not about tolerating endless disrespect. It is about becoming that rock, firm, steady, unshaken. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Boundaries are simply this principle lived out loud. They say, here is what I will allow, here is what I will not, without anger, without apology. I remember a conversation with someone who had a habit of cutting me off, dismissing my words before I could finish. For a long time, I let it slide. I thought keeping the peace was strength, but each time I stayed silent, a small piece of self-respect slipped away. One day, I met his interruption with calm eyes and said, I'll finish my thought, then I'd like to hear yours. My voice wasn't raised, my tone wasn't sharp. Yet, the shift was undeniable. He paused. For the first time, he listened. That moment taught me a truth. Dignity is preserved not by fighting harder, but by standing clearer. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks. They are the lines that protect your inner order from being trampled. When you calmly tell someone that's not acceptable, you are not insulting them. You are respecting yourself. And often, by doing so, you teach them how to respect you as well. Seneca wrote, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. Allowing others to trample your dignity is a form of needless suffering. Anger is not the answer. Silence is not always the answer. Clarity is. To say without venom, I expect to be spoken to with respect. To walk away when those words are ignored. To hold firm even if others accuse you of being too much or too strict. Boundaries are not cruelty, they are justice to yourself and to the order of your life. Think of boundaries as armor forged from self-respect. Not heavy with bitterness, not sharp with rage, but solid. When you wear it, you carry yourself differently. You walk into every room not begging for dignity, but radiating it, and those who cannot honor it simply fall away. So hold this truth. Stoicism teaches us not just to endure, but to assert, to demand respect without shouting, to defend dignity without hate, to stand like a rock, steady and unbreakable. And from this firmness comes a softer, higher choice, the one that frees you even more than boundaries ever could, the choice to forgive. Advancing to the 9th chapter, picture the moment when someone's words cut deep, a sharp comment, a mocking laugh, an open slight. Your chest tightens, the mind races, the fire rises, demanding release. The question comes unbidden, do I strike back or do I let it pass? Here is where the Stoics offer a third way, the path of forgiveness, not weakness, not surrender, but liberation. Epictetus and his students knew that we cannot control how others behave, their insults, their disrespect, their cruelty. These belong to them. What belongs to us is our response. To forgive is not to excuse. It is not to forget. It is to release ourselves from the iron chains of resentment. For as long as we grip that chain, we drag it everywhere we go. The weight is not theirs, it is ours. I once knew a man who carried a grudge for years against a former friend who betrayed him. Every conversation circled back to that wound. He fed it daily, like a fire kept alive with scraps of memory. And what did it give him? Nothing but bitterness. The man he hated had moved on, free and unburdened, while he remained shackled to the past. Watching him taught me this. Anger is not punishment for the other. It is poison for yourself. Seneca wrote, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." Forgiveness is how we take back that control. It is not a gift wrapped for those who wronged us. It is medicine for our own soul. It clears the smoke so we can see again. It lifts the weight so we can breathe again. Forgiveness is not indiscriminate. The Stoics remind us to forgive with wisdom and with justice. We forgive to free ourselves, but we do not forget the lesson. We let go of resentment, but we do not let go of reason. Forgiveness does not mean inviting the same injury again. It means refusing to let yesterday's insult own tomorrow's peace. Think of forgiveness as setting down a heavy stone. You could keep carrying it, proving how strong you are, but every step grows harder. Or you could lay it down and walk farther, lighter, freer. The stone does not vanish, but it no longer defines your journey. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life is short and peace is fragile. Why waste it locked in battles that can never be won? Forgiveness is not defeat. It is victory, not sacrifice, reward. It is the quiet power of choosing growth over grievance. So when disrespect pierces you, remember, you hold the key to your own release. To forgive is to rise above the wound, to claim peace as your own possession. And once the burden is set down, you see more clearly. You gain perspective. And perspective, as the Stoics knew, changes everything. Entering the 10th chapter, imagine looking down from the peak of a mountain. From that height, the city below looks small. Streets, cars, even people shrink to dots in motion. What seemed overwhelming when you stood in the middle of it now feels insignificant when seen from above. That is what perspective does to disrespect. It shrinks it until it no longer has the power to rule you. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminded himself, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." Perspective is not about ignoring reality. It is about seeing it rightly. When someone disrespects you, in the moment it feels huge, all-consuming, like a fire threatening to engulf you. But pull back, widen your view, and you see, in the vast sweep of your life, this slight is a single spark. It does not define you. It does not decide your worth. It only burns if you bend down and feed it. I once witnessed a friend humiliated during a meeting. The insult landed hard, and you could see the anger rise in his face. But instead of striking back, he leaned back in his chair, let out a small laugh, and said, "That's one perspective." He shifted the entire room. By refusing to meet the insult on its narrow ground, he reframed it in a larger context. Later, he told me, "I just asked myself, will this matter to me in a week, a year? In the story of my life, is this even a paragraph?" That is perspective in practice. Most disrespect says more about the other person than about you. Their bitterness, their ignorance, their insecurity spilling outward. When you change your perspective, you stop asking, "Why did they hurt me?" and start seeing, "What must it be like to live in their state of mind?" Suddenly the sting softens. Their words become echoes of their own weakness, not chains on yours. Perspective is also a compass. It turns your attention back to what matters, your goals, your values, your virtues. Time and energy are finite. Why waste them on resentment when you could spend them building, learning, living? Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Perspective frees you from that trap. It reminds you that most slights are passing clouds. The sky, your inner peace, remains untouched. Think of it this way: you can spend your life chasing every barking dog on the street, or you can keep walking toward your destination. Perspective is choosing the path forward. It is the quiet decision that no insult is worth derailing your purpose. So the next time disrespect comes, climb the mountain in your mind, look down, see how small it truly is. Then ask yourself, what deserves my focus more, this fleeting moment, or the life I am building? Hold this truth. Perspective transforms pain into clarity, insult into nothing more than noise, and with it you step not only above disrespect, but closer to peace itself. Stoicism is not about denying what you feel, but about mastering those feelings so they never master you. By living these 10 lessons, you learn to stay calm, protect your dignity, and rise above the noise of disrespect. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe so you can keep walking this path of strength and clarity. Share your thoughts below with the words, "Stay strong." And remember, every act of self-control is proof that you are already winning. Another lesson awaits you in the next video.